I got to tell you that we have a creek on our property, and it's rained enough that the water is running. And I just closed my eyes, and I saw myself sitting by that creek and just when you say let the river show you, I let that creek show me, and I can just drop down so quickly. So thank you for allowing me that experience. You know, I can't help it. I'm going to mention Moses a little bit in the talk here, but one day Jesus decided to come down and play a little golf. So for you golfers out here, pay attention. He brought Moses to caddy for him. He teed off. The ball went high, fell into the top of a tree, bounced off the branches on the way down, hit the ground, rolled down the hill, and went right into the cup. Moses says, "Nice shot, Lord." Jesus looked up and said, "Thanks, Dad." Oh, Mary said, "Thanks, Dad." At the second tee, the ball went off to the left, bounced off a rock, ricocheted off of a stump, and went right into the cup. Moses said, "Nice shot, Lord." Jesus looked up again, said, "Thanks, Dad." The third tee shot went straight into the lake. Jesus walked out onto the water to see if he could find it. Right about that time, two older men drive up in a golf cart. They see this guy walking on the lake, and one of them says to Moses, "Hey, who does he think he is, Jesus Christ?" Moses replies, "He is Jesus Christ, but he thinks he's Tiger Woods." Okay. Did I catch it on fire? I always worry about the kids and the candle. You got to worry about me. Oh, gosh. Can we start out with that first screen? That first thank you. Okay, you saw the title, right? Be curious. Don't judge. Let them judge you. Let them misunderstand you. Let them gossip about you. Their opinions aren't your problem. Stay kind and true to yourself. No matter what they say or do, don't doubt your worth. No matter what they say or do, don't doubt your worth. Just keep shining like you always do. Has anybody watched the series Ted Lasso? If you haven't, do. It's like one of my favorite series. Talk about inspiration. Now, you got to be ready. You don't want the kids to hear it because it's got a lot of F-bombs in it. Sorry, Facebook audience, but it's the truth. So I want to warn you up front. But Ted Lasso, you don't need to know any of this right now. Just mark that down. Ted Lasso, check it out. We have a clip from Ted Lasso. Okay. Anybody relate to him? People didn't understand you, made fun of you, belittled you in a workplace, at school. And the quote by Walt Whitman, be curious, not judgmental. And to realize that, ooh, let there be light. Ooh. To realize, to me, that scene hit home for me. And to realize that there's a gift in curiosity, isn't there? I'm going to read you a story, just a little bit of a story. I'll tell you a little bit about this mother. She writes a blog, and it's called The Gift of Curiosity. And she's talking about, she's got young children. Some of you can relate, okay? They're always curious, aren't they? They always want to know, how does this work? What's this do? How come I can't plug this device in? How come I can't take the batteries out? Why do I have to take the batteries out? The questions just are nonstop. I'm looking at your parents of young children, and I'm looking at grandparents. You know what it's like. There's a reason why we can only keep our grandkids 2 days, because it's like, oh my God, they never quit asking questions, right? So she talks about, and then she finally you get to a point where you say the things that you swore you would never say. Why? Because I said so. instead of trying to explain the why of it. So she gets to finally take a 4-day trip with her husband, business trip, and she has a grandparents watch the kids. And she's spending 4 days, and she said she felt like she had taken the most heaviest winter coat off by not having all these voices around her asking hundreds and hundreds of insequential questions, so she would call it. So she had time to go take a run while her husband was in a business meeting, and all of a sudden, she looks down and finds herself curious at this homeless man sitting under a bridge. And so she starts to have a conversation with God. What's his story? I wonder what his story is. God, are you here? God, why do you let this stuff go on? God, what do people feel about you? How much do I shape how I see the world from my white suburban woman attitude? I was curious, she said, and this is a gift. Curiosity is born of observation, of looking outside of ourselves with a desire to know the world. It is other rather than self-centered. It desires to ask and to seek. A curious mind is open to new discoveries. Just think about that little mind in your house, right? She's always curious about stuff. Think about your grandchildren. If you can think about your nieces, nephews. Think about those days when you thought, oh my God, if they ask me one more question, I'm going to scream. But it's curiosity is truly because they're not thinking about themselves. It's all about everything else out here, out here, out here. You think about it. Curiosity is what sent Moses to the burning bush to try and figure out why was that bush still burning? Why wasn't it going out? Curiosity. Jesus was curious about that woman. Remember the woman at the well? She was a Samaritan. He was not supposed to be speaking to her. They were not supposed to cross paths. What did Jesus do? He goes up to the well and says, "Woman, I'm thirsty." And starts to have a full conversation with her. Curiosity. Curiosity led the shepherds to the stable scene. At Christmas, they were curious about who was this king? Who was this guy? We've got to go check it out. We've got to follow the star. Curiosity. Curiosity. Oh, yeah. We have a new dog. He's 5 months old. His name is Merlin. Perfect name for him. He is curious about everything. Anybody ever had a new puppy or a new cat? They're into everything, aren't they? Everything. Every day, everything is new. Everything. Somehow, he this morning has got the grill thing, you scrub your grill, it's wire mesh or whatever, and you scrape all the gunk off your grill before you put your steak or hot dog or whatever on it. He's got it and he's throwing it up in the air. I'm like, doesn't this hurt your mouth? Curiosity. I think about, there's so many things that I think about with my daughter's work and the homeless, people experiencing homelessness, and watching how she and her coworkers go out in a community that is shunned and belittled, and they are curious about them. They take time to go up to them and say, "Why aren't you in school? Where's your mom? Where's your dad? Where's your aunt? Where's your grandma? Where do they live? Let's see if we can get you a ride. Let me get you a taxi and I'm going to get you home to your mom." Curiosity is a gift. But how much time do we spend in our adulthood being curious? Right? I think about, I don't want that little puppy to grow up. He's so much fun to watch the curiosity in him. It makes my day. Well, some of the times. Then there's things he drags out that he has no business dragging out, and then that's where I'm like, oh, no, not again. Many of you know that I was a school bus driver. And back in those days, when you started as a school bus driver, you started as a sub, which meant you got the call at 5 o'clock in the morning. You had to be on a bus by 6, on whatever bus they assigned you. Every day was different. So this day, I'm assigned to one of the smaller buses, which means I'm going to a smaller school, or back in the day, they would have called it a special school. You don't know, and you get a route sheet, because we didn't have these devices back then. So you get a route sheet that tells you where you're going. Now, I am very good at following directions, so I stop and get my first load of kids on the bus, and they're little. Oh, they're preschool age, and they're so freaking cute, right? They get on the bus, they go to their seats, and I start to pull away for the next stop, and I'm looking in my rearview mirror, and they're up and down. The rule on Kathy's bus is everybody's always sitting or the bus doesn't move. When you're a sub, you would understand. Because once you let them get by with anything, you are it ain't pretty. So I'm over on Jackie's Drive, right back here in this subdivision, and I'm picking up more kids, and I'm noticing they're all over. They're jumping up and down and squealing. And I pull the bus over, and I'm like, looking in my rearview mirror, and I'm like, everybody sit down. This bus is not moving until everybody's sitting down. And you see these little kids go. I'm now picking them up on Coleraine Avenue. And I get my last load, and here again, jumping, squealing. They're out of their seats. I pull over on Coleraine Avenue. Again, everybody sit down or this bus is not moving. I know I can be pretty stern when I want to. Again, the whole bus of little ones go. I get to the school. It's off of Coleraine Avenue, and it says it's a private school. I pull up to the parking lot, and there, of course, is the teacher to get the kids off the bus. And the kids are getting off the bus, and the teacher says to me, well, how were they? And I said, frankly, this is one of the worst group of kids I've ever had. I said, I could not get them to sit down in this bus for nothing. I couldn't get them to settle down. I said, I'm just being honest. She steps inside the bus and says, did anybody tell you that all of these kids are hearing impaired and speech impaired? The words she used way back then was the words were deaf and dumb. Did you not know that these kids were deaf and dumb? I felt like crawling in a hole, and I wanted to die. I had been yelling. No wonder these kids are looking at me like, I don't know what she's saying, but she's looking mad, right? Had I been curious and asked a parent when I first picked up the first batch or the second batch, but no, I was in my infinite wisdom and making judgment about how bad these kids were. Anybody relate to any time you've done anything like this in your life? I love this book. Can you tell? I've had to tape it because I use it so much. This was a year-long class here that we did 30 years ago, close to 30 years ago. And it's the chapter on judgment, the spiritual power of judgment. Yes, there is one of the 12 powers is judgment. Now, you wouldn't think we'd use that word in judgment, but it's used as discernment. Using discernment. So, they're talking about ouch, watch out for that prickly cactus over there. Can't you see how dangerous it is? And I look at this cactus, and it's got all these spines and everything, and it's screaming out to me like, don't touch me, right? And I'm like, man, what was God thinking when he created that worthless plant? So now another person goes to the pound, and they are going to pick up a rescue. But they're letting them decide who needs a home. And of course, they bring out this greyhound dog. And the guy said, oh, no, not that dog. I'm going to tell you, that plant that said that was all the prickly spines, and he thought God made a mistake. What's that plant for? It ended up being that it is one of the most, it holds the most water. So people in the desert literally were able to suck on that plant to be able to survive in the desert. The greyhound dog, of course, you know the moral of this story. He ends up being the best dog in the world to this family. You know, it's things like that I know we all have a story about how we've judged. What did your mother teach you? Don't judge a book. How well do we really do that? How well do we really do that? I'm not getting political here, but I'm going to tell you, I know that when political signs are up, you don't make a judgment at that house. Whose ever sign, I don't care. I'm just saying, do we not? Do I make a judgment when I'm driving a little Prius and a big monster truck comes barreling up on my rear end? Do I make a quick judgment and want to say something about that guy in that truck? Yes. Yes. And it's using discernment. You know people who get excited. You know people here in this church who get excited. And I'm not talking happy excitement. I'm talking that kind of excitement, right? To where you start like, oh my God, and I'm staying away from that person, right? But when you go and be curious and you get to know that person, you find out the backstory of that person. And you start to realize why that person has angst, why that person has fear. How do you do that? By going down to Fellowship Hall and saying, hi, I've never met you before. Can you tell me, like, where do you live? Are you married? I used to drive me crazy. My daughter was 4 years old in every line we went into. Hi, are you married? Do you have any kids? I'd be so embarrassed, right? She was being curious and trying to get her mom a date, apparently. That's what I thought. She was just being curious. So when you have a judgment, when you find yourself having a judgment, who doesn't have a judgment when you pull off of the ramp and there is a person experiencing homelessness with a sign and looking terrible? And be honest, what's the first thing that comes into your mind? Don't look at them. That's exactly right. If I don't make eye contact, have you ever tried to make eye contact and smile? Doesn't mean you have to give them anything. Your gift is a smile, a connection. You can just roll your window down and say blessings. Don't feel bad if you don't give them anything. And if you do, give it to them out of your heart, not with an attachment. We make all kinds of judgments. You know, I'm going to close with, if the video works, we'll see. I want you to watch this, and I want you to put yourself in this place. And as Taylor and Sierra, if you want to bring the kids in, they can kind of watch this too. Think about if you can relate to any of these people in this video. Because I like to think of God as both. all of it. But I show that because is there really, as it started, there's us and there's them. But what's the truth? There's really only one of us. We're all connected. So with that, I say namaste. That the Christ presence in me truly sees and honors that oneness, that love to be curious in each and every one of you. Namaste.